Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Samantha and I would absolutely love it if you went ahead and subscribed to my channel. You can do that by clicking the icon on the bottom right hand corner located right here. Okay, so most of you already know this, and if you don't, I'll just go ahead and say it right now. I am a junior at Sam Houston State University and I am a criminal justice major with a pre-law minor. So basically what that means is my major is criminal justice and I have a pre-law minor, also known as legal studies, which means that I am looking into classes that will prepare me for law school. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about what it's like to be a criminal justice major. For 2 years that I was at A&M, I was a criminal justice major and I currently still am. It has been so great so far, but I kind of just wanted to talk about my experience being a criminal justice major, because when people ask me what my major is and I say CJ, I have always gotten the reaction of like, oh wow, like that's so cool, you know, like I don't know why, but I guess it kind of makes sense. So I'm going to be talking about the classes that I have taken thus far, my future plans, and how I felt about the program so far. I made a list that is incorporating all of the classes that I have taken for my major, so I'll go ahead and just list all of the classes and kind of talk about them a little bit. I have taken the Juvenile Justice System, Terrorism, Criminal Law, Offender Rehabilitation, Intro to Criminal Justice, Law and Evidence, Research Methods, Police Management and Supervision, Criminology, Correctional System and Practices, Criminal Justice and Social Diversity, Victimology, and Business Law. To start off with the classes that I've taken from first to last so far and give you guys an insight on what the class is similar to. So the first class that I ever took as a criminal justice major is the Juvenile Justice System. So this class basically is just an overview of juveniles and the justice system, such as juvenile delinquency and anyone under the age of 18 and 17 here in Texas. Minors who are within the justice system, this is basically what we learned about in the class. We learned all about how to handle minors. They go through family problems and just things like that, and why they are the way that they are and how we can help them in the future so that they are not criminals when they're older. That's basically the juvenile justice system. Most people aren't really aware that there is a juvenile justice system. Everyone just thinks that there is just a criminal justice system as a whole, but it's actually different for juveniles. They do not partake in the same role as an adult would within the system, so things are a little bit different when it comes to juveniles, such as their punishments or just things like that. They have different programs for juveniles, they have different rules, and they have different ways of helping the individual versus the way they would handle an adult. On to the second class, I took terrorism. So mostly when people think of terrorism, they kind of think of just like scary stuff that goes on outside of the United States, but I actually learned that terrorism is all over the world. It is also in the United States, here in our country, as well as outside countries. So I got to learn all about different terrorist groups and their motives and basically their beliefs, the way they attack their victims, what they do, and just things like that, and who they're affiliated with, who they're not affiliated with, and basically their message for their rivalries, I guess you would call that. It's actually a really cool class. I got to learn about all of the terrorist groups, not all of the terrorist groups, but most of the terrorist groups that are located in like Africa or Europe or just like all over the world. There's so many terrorist groups, even groups that I learned about that I had no idea even existed. And then the pretty like cool thing, which I wouldn't really consider a cool thing, but one thing that I did learn in this class is that there are many terrorist groups here in America that are our own people. So there are Americans who also have their own terrorist groups for their own people, which is insane, because like, why would you want to be a terrorist group for your own kind of people? But honestly, that's what terrorism is. Even across the world, such as Kenya is a terrorist group. in Africa, somewhere in Africa, I know it's Kenya, I actually learned about them, and they make attacks on their own people because they're trying to take over a certain religion or a certain area and they don't agree with it, so they just attack their own. And that's kind of like what happens here in America as well. It's just not so much talked about. So I did learn a lot about that in terrorism. And then moving on to criminal law. Criminal law was actually an amazing class. It's kind of what opened my eyes as to me wanting to be a criminal defense attorney. So basically in criminal law, I got to learn about the Texas Penal Code here in Texas, and it has basically every rule slash punishment that you can think of here in Texas. So it was just really amazing because the law, you kind of have to analyze it and put the puzzle pieces together, and that's what I really enjoy. I love learning about the law and I love applying it to situations and figuring out the outcome, and that is exactly what criminal law helped me understand. So I really enjoyed that class. Moving on to offender rehabilitation. Offender rehabilitation is basically a class that is meant to teach you about rehabilitating offenders. So basically what rehabilitating means is when a criminal is, has entered into the justice system, does their time, does their, completes their punishment, things like that. Rehabilitating them is basically just attempting to put them back into society so they do not commit more crimes. To rehabilitate offenders, there are many different programs, there are many different ways to rehabilitate offenders, so I learned all about that. In offender rehabilitation, you kind of connect the victim to its offender and just things like that. And it's a pretty cool class. It wasn't really my cup of tea just because offender rehabilitation isn't really my area. I kind of like more law type things instead of like fixing people. So anyways, I also took Intro to Criminal Justice. So basically that class is self-explanatory. It's just Intro to Criminal Justice. So you learn, you're kind of easing into what criminal justice is, and within Intro you talk a lot about all of the classes that I'm talking about right now, just like little bits and pieces of it instead of actually analyzing it. So that's what the criminal justice was. So law and evidence was also another class that I took that really inspired me to be a lawyer. Law and evidence is realizing what type of evidence is permissible into court, what type of evidence is allowed to be in a courtroom and used during sentencing or during determining, what that individual's outcome is going to be. It's really cool because I got to learn all about different types of evidence that is allowed in a courtroom and different types of evidence that is not allowed in a courtroom. And I also learned a lot about different aspects of evidence. So there's like circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, and they're totally two different things, even though they do help within the justice system. It's so hard to explain, but it's amazing. I love it. Law and evidence was an amazing class for me. And then I took research methods, which I honestly didn't really think about this until I took the class, but within criminal justice there's a lot of data that's being analyzed and a lot of different projects that are being like put together to gather this information, and I never really thought about it. The only thing we ever see are all of the numbers, but where do those numbers come from? And that's what I learned in research methods. So it's really cool. I got to learn about different ways, different research methods ways within the criminal justice field. So that was a really good class for me. I realized that research is not something that I want to do. It's not really something that interests me. I think it's so cool for the people who do that because they're giving us the information that we need to combat crime in certain areas or just like as a whole. It's really good to have people who are, in that field, but personally for me, that's not something that I would want to do. But it was a very good class. I took police management and supervision. So this class was pretty cool because you got to learn about policing in the management aspect. So what it's like to be a police officer who is a manager. So that's pretty cool. I got to learn all about policing and the way that, their lieutenants or their captains handle certain situations and things like that. And it was pretty cool. I got to learn a lot about policing, and it kind of opened my eyes and realized that policing is not a bad job. There are a lot of people who stereotype being an officer as something like negative or something kind of like not so great, but it opened my eyes to realize it is actually a really good job. It pays pretty freaking well, and I thought it didn't, but it actually does. So that's pretty good. You're not gonna make a freaking fortune, but I mean, it's a good job. It also opened my eyes to realize that I wouldn't mind being an officer, and honestly I probably would have never said that before I took this class, but since I took this class I actually wouldn't mind it, so that's pretty cool. I also took criminology. So criminology is basically just the study of criminals, and that's it. You know, criminology, what I'm learning in criminology is things that I've already learned in other classes, so it's not really my biggest, you know, favorite class, but it's okay because I kind of already know what's going on, so the class is like a breeze for me. I'm taking correctional system and practices. So basically what this class is you're learning about the correction system within the criminal justice system, so like sentencing and prisons and just things like that, punishment. So that's pretty cool. We haven't gotten too much in depth. I'm actually taking this class right now. We haven't gotten too much in depth into like the corrections detailedly, but we have, you know, like the history of corrections and how it evolved, and like corrections here in Texas, corrections, you know, across the United States, but we haven't like officially got into detail within the class. So far it's pretty cool because I'm learning about corrections and the practice within the criminal justice system, so that's pretty cool. I'm taking criminal justice and social diversity right now. That class is just social diversity within the system, such as different races, different ethnicities, different ages and things like that, and how it impacts the system. For me, not my favorite class, but it's pretty cool to see the data and like the different ranges of what is within the system, so that's pretty cool. Victimology is the study of victims within the criminal justice system, so study of the victims, what they're going through, what they went through, how to analyze it, how to determine early signs of abuse, different types of abuse, so like partner abuse, physical, emotional, mental abuse. I like victimology just because it's so easy to just blame the victim for what happened, but in reality, it's usually the offender who is kind of psychotic, but you know, it's okay. And then I'm currently taking business law. I actually really like this class because I'm planning on going to law school, so this class is opening my eyes as to what it's like to study business law. So for me, that's pretty cool. I'm learning all about torts and contracts and valid contracts, contracts that are voidable, contracts that are unenforceable, contracts that are enforceable, how to get out of a contract, how to, you know, just like so many different things. Right now we're only touching on contracts, so I haven't gotten into too much detail as to different aspects of what I will be learning in business law, but so far it's been pretty cool because I'm learning so many things about business that I didn't know, so it kind of is really good to know, so that when I get into law school and I have to take business law, I have an overview as to what I will be learning. Also, our professor is a lawyer, so he teaches us in a way that we would be taught in law school. So, you know, we have our outlines and our exams, and we have to briefcasing. So we're, you know, briefing cases, which is awesome for me because that's what you do in law school, and that's what I'm doing right now as an undergrad. So it's opening my eyes to what I have in store in the future. But yeah, so these are the classes that I've taken so far. I would never change my major for anything. This major has always interested me, and I remember the first time I ever realized I wanted to be a criminal justice major was my freshman year of high school, and I have been stuck on that since then. So I will be ending my junior year here in December and then starting my senior year in January, which for me is like bizarre. Like, how has my undergrad already, you know, passed so fast? But it's been amazing. I've learned so much about the law, and honestly I'm so grateful to have been able to, because personally I feel like a lot of people don't know the law, don't know their rights, and don't know what they're able to do and able to not do, so they definitely get taken advantage of. That's also another reason why I want to be a criminal defense attorney, because there's so many people who get their rights taken advantage of. It's important to know your right. People can't just take advantage of you, so that's definitely why I want to be a criminal defense attorney. But I'm so thankful to have been able to choose this major, just because it has opened my eyes so much into the law and how it's just so applicable to your day-to-day life. So for me, that has been amazing. I would never change my major to anything else. It's a major that gives you so much knowledge to things that actually matter, like every single day. So yeah, that has been my experience within the system, And then my plans, my future plans are I'm getting my bachelor's degree December of 2019, and then right after or right before that I'm actually planning on applying to law school. I want to apply to Texas A&M University Law School in Fort Worth, and I also want to apply to U of H Law School in Houston, and maybe outside law schools just to see, you know, where I get in and where I don't get in. So that has been my plan. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to comment any questions that you guys have or any thoughts and ideas. Also, let me know if you're also a criminal justice major. I would love to hear your experience and what school you go to. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Ruining my video, Bailey. I'm playing with you while I'm trying to talk. What you doing? Huh? She's a little crazy. I say hi? Say hello.